All right, so you're just in time for that discussion that we told you earlier on. Entertainment artism versus just basic art. In 2020, what did you like to see in the entertainment industry? We'll analyze 2019. Remember that Wajinga Nyinyi song? Yeah? That is part of the things we're going to talk about. But for now, what I'd like to hear from you is in 2020, what did you like to see as a person who's either in the entertainment industry or being entertained? Yeah, the hashtag is Daybreak at Trevor Mbija to Citizen Kenya. And at Zinzi_K. Yes. Hashtag ni Friday watu. Nini? Calm down. Hashtag Daybreak. Let us know what you're thinking right now. Then we'll sample some of your views. Let me introduce our guest real quick before we get into that conversation. Starting from my immediate right, Doug Mutai, a comedian. Thank you so much for making time. Anyiko Owoko, entertainment publicist. Asante sana for making time. And Emmanuel Kisiangani, a comedian and radio host.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Any single time I have a comedian in the vicinity, I'm always tempted to tell them to tell us a joke.
Oh wow, don't be that person, Trevor.
Should we not?
Do not be that
Should
person.
we not? No?
Tell us a joke.
Tell us something funny.
Wow.
No? Okay, fine.
No, do not be that person.
All right, Doug, I'll start with you. What is your review of 2019? What were your greatest highlights?
Okay, 2019 was a lot of, it was a mixed bag, you know. It's a lot of ups and downs, the economy behaving the way it was behaving, and people still have to get entertained somehow, you know. 2019 was a mixed bag. Let me leave it at that.
It's interesting that you mentioned the economy. How does that affect you guys?
It's not bad for us.
Yeah.
No, it's again, it's one of those things whereby the more stressed out people are, the more they're gonna want to be relaxed and laugh and have an easier time, so they can have an easier time with the tough times.
I get that.
All right. Yeah. That's an interesting approach. Anyiko?
For me, I think 2019 was a wonderful year in terms of content, in terms of the music. Remember when we started 2019, we had the Play Kenyan Music campaign that Calligraph kickstarted, and actually when this started was in January of 2019. So I think it really set a good precedence for the year, and a lot of artists came out and released really great content. There were a lot of mixtapes, albums, EPs released by several artists. So I think Kenyan artists really took it upon themselves to want to produce more content. And recently there's a report that came out by Boomplay Music, which is the biggest music app in Africa. And actually Kenyans are listening to a majority of gospel music as a genre right now.
Oh, wow.
That is for 2019. And then number 2 is Bongo Flavor. Then number 3 is Afrobeats. So when we started the Play Kenyan Music campaign, I think the thing is people wanted to see a shift, like from the Afrobeats to more music closer home, and we are seeing the results now that it's like another year. So I think it was great in that sense.
All right, Emmanuel.
I think 2019 was the year of the big shift in regards to like social media, people who are doing entertainment on social media.
Right.
Like it exploded, man. I don't know if you
YouTubers,
guys noticed.
bloggers on
Instagram. You'd see, it was the year of people like, this guy who does Kamami, Terrence. There were people, Mamito, and Jugush, who's not on any regular media house.
Right.
But he's just on social media like, 24 hours a day. So it was a big shift in terms of even advertisers now going online, to start putting their ads on social media. So I think it was huge in regard to that for me, especially because, like now we are seeing people who can actually live off another media platform like social media and, pay their bills. So for me, it was a huge shift from, I know I'm speaking on a media house, but it was a huge shift from the regular traditional media to social media.
Right. I hear you, digital content and what that has done. So just a general outlook perhaps of 2020 before we can get into specific things. Emmanuel, what are you looking forward to in 2020, especially in the entertainment industry, that you think will be a big deal? Whether it's in Kenya or on the African continent.
2020 will be bigger in terms of, because now I'm talking about the shift, and now it'll be like, it'll be more established. We've seen people like Adele, who moved from a media house and started a podcast, which became the biggest podcast, in Kenya. So I think we'll have a lot of shifts towards people moving their content online. Nowadays, even the content I consume, even from Citizen, most of it I consume it on the Citizen website.
Right.
So you'll find a traditional media house, which is big online. So I think that for 2020, it will be more of that being established throughout the year.
Aniko, as a publicist for you, what do you think will stand out in 2020?
I think what will stand out is a different shift, because I agree with him that even in the entertainment industry, there was a shift where even music videos are getting more millions of views, not like it used to be. Like it used to take 2 years, but now artists are releasing music videos and in 2 weeks they have like millions of views. So I think I'm looking at a shift where Kenyan artists specifically are going to be earning more from their music. And we see a lot of international concerts coming into Kenya, but I think Kenyan artists are still not being paid, you know, the same that the international artists are being paid. So I would like to see industry professionals, you know, artist managers, the artists themselves up their game in terms of knowing their value. Because if you don't know your value, if you do not demand for your value, then you actually are not given what is your worth.
Right.
So now that we have dope content and we have the events happening, and we have all this international attention.
And it's like you're reading my mind. We'll come to that part for demanding value. And I'll have a specific question for you on that question. But let me get Doug's 2020 outlook.
Yeah, the 2020 outlook, as I see it myself, I agree with these guys. The shift has arrived, obviously. But also we'll now start seeing even consumers, more consumers going into that, like looking for stuff online, looking for more local content, you know, digging. Because now people are discovering there's a lot of good stuff in Kenya, talent-wise, that they've never heard of. Like they just, every time it's a whole discovery. Every time I didn't know this existed, you see the comments. And that's what's going to happen is people are going to start actually actively seeking out the underground, the stuff that has been simmering for long, ready to just come out.
All right. And then Aniko, allow me to just come back to that statement you made about demanding value. And the reason why perhaps I'd like to start us now from there is because we saw a lot of events in 2019 and even spill over into 2020. Social events, should I say, social events. But there's been a lot of complaining. We bring international artists. You find our local artists perform for longer and even better than those international artists who can perform for two, three songs. And this is after paying X amount for a ticket. And a lot of Kenyans are saying the error is with the event organizers. The error, it's not even with the artist itself. The event organizers in Kenya are letting you guys in your industry down. What do you have to say about that?
I think that is true to a certain extent, and I would not blame only the promoters or those who are organizing events, but I'll also blame the artists. It's kind of like a collective effort. And I think artists need to demand for value, but then they have to show the value. You know, you have to invest in your craft. You have to say, oh, you have to pay me this, but when you go up on that stage, we have to see that type of performance. So I think it's also important for Kenyans in particular to create platforms for Kenyans. You know, when we had the Tusker Oktoberfest, it was an all Kenyan lineup and it was really amazing. So I see what happens when the international artists come. I still enjoy the Kenyan artists performing more than the international artists. So why don't we as a country, as an industry, as professionals, create more platforms by Kenyans for Kenyans? I think that's also something that's going to move us forward.
Emmanuel, isn't that the strange thing? Because when you hear people talking about value and you realize that there's some artists, Nigerian artists, who come in here and then the Kenyans are the ones who are curtain raising for them, what makes us think that they are bigger than our own artists?
I think it's just perceptions. You know, it's a question of, or it's a situation of the prophet not being honored at home. Like you're honored more if you're from another place. Say, hey, this guy he's come on an aeroplane, so this guy must be bigger. So it's just, I think that's just the situation we're having. And then another problem we have is, you know, the internet has made the world very small. So what's happening is I'll watch a concert by, say, Burna Boy in the States on Jimmy Kimmel, and I'll see the quality of his performance. I'll see, hey, this guy has actually given it. Then when he comes here, I'll compare that performance and say, hey, this guy, when he comes to Kenya, he's reducing the quality of his performance.
Which is actually true.
Yes. And then so the reason it's a problem is even with local artists, when you put out something on the internet, you're no longer being compared to your peers in Kenya. You're being compared to what someone else is doing in New York or what someone else is doing in Europe.
Is that the price you have to pay for being a global village? Because of technology has made that possible.
Yeah, technology has made it more competitive. So now if you're releasing a video, you have to put in more money, and you have to have the quality of the video on a higher, pedestal for you to compete on the world stage.
Okay.
Yeah. But also at the same time, Doug, what do you think about that conversation? Because I want to bring in the issues of the challenges still remain the same. There's still those people who are saying these artists are not being good role models. There's too much nudity. There's too much vulgarism. Those challenges have not changed.
Yeah, they have not changed. And in regards to that, honestly, one of the things that we've had as a Kenyan culture in general is we don't usually embrace our own for some reason. And it's not even mean-spirited, it's just a thing where people assume that foreign is going to be great. Like you want to bring somebody here, they're as good as anybody, but you'll have to name their credits from outside for it to have some impact on people. And even in regards to the stuff regarding nudity and all that stuff, sometimes the way I see the artists get desperate trying to get their attention, be like, hey, I'm doing something here. Till they just go into that provocation mode because they just have to be heard, and they provoke, and then you see some people and then they start tapering off and they become more tame after that. But
is it desperation or trying to level the playing field? Because how would you explain Beyonce coming here and performing in a very skimpy outfit and not Akode doing the same thing?
Yeah, well, the thing first of all is we are in a very conservative society. So whatever Beyonce is wearing, it's not a stretch from what the norm where she lives in.
So she gets a pass, but she not gets a very pass. Own Akode.
Yes, because I don't know, for some reason the way we view them, we've always viewed them as others. So
it's a perspective problem.
Yeah, exactly. It's a perspective. But Akode does it here, and maybe she's trying to push boundaries or whatever the case may be, the first instinct for us is Akode is also the girl next door. Now I'm seeing her naked. I think that's a thing that's happening with people where just in respect to, especially comparing Akode to Beyonce, because people just look at her and be like, it's just weird because I know her or I can place her.
Okay.
But yeah,
she's closer home.
Is that the same reading, Anyiko?
Yeah, kind of. Actually, I agree with him, and I think it's about the perspective, and it's also a branding game. I always say it's a marketing and branding game. Kenyan music to me is the best music coming from Africa, the whole of Africa, Kenyan and East African music. So I like Ugandan music. I really like Tanzanian music. I would never even compare, say, Western music, like from America or Europe, or Western African music with East African music. It's just the perception that we have of our own selves, of our own music, and also that the artists have of themselves. There's a lot of money that other artists from other regions are putting into the marketing. All of them have publicists in every single market, every single country. Even some who are in the in the Lion King album, I talked to them and asked them, okay, how did you get there? And they're like, okay, Beyonce's team contacted our PR team, and we saw the email and we responded. So it's very possible that Beyonce's team even wanted to contact some Kenyan artists or East African artists, and because they didn't have the right connection.
I'm glad you used Lion King, because that's the example how it is that we have Nigerian artists or other artists, according to what the conversation social media, but no Kenyan or East African artist on a film that is considered to have been perceived to be happening in an East African region. Emmanuel, your thoughts on this?
There's a Netflix special called Comedians of the World. All right. So Comedians of the World brought together comedians, obviously, from the name, from the world. Yeah. But the interesting thing is the only comedians from Africa were South African comedians. So we're like, there are no Kenyan comedians in this world. So it's actually a problem not only in music, but even in comedy. And that is why people like me and Doug, we came together and decided we're going to build up a comedy scene that can grow up to a place where we are also recognized on a world stage. And it's something that has to be built, because the South Africans have been working on theirs for a while.
What do you think is the gap right now, actually, before we come to how long that will take? What do you think is the missing link? Because we do have shows, Churchill show is there, we have comedians in Kenya. How come you're not recognized? What is the missing link?
The missing link is, it's very simple. It's just language, Like to be understood in the world, to be understood, you have to speak in a language and which the world understands. A very good example is Trevor Noah, who is South African, and he's hosting a show, a huge show in America, because he used to do, or rather he does his comedy in a language the world can understand. So if I do a joke here about an airport, in JKIA, if I'm watching in New York and I've been to an airport, like Miguna, I'll be able to, relate just because I've gone through that experience. So the gap is just the language and local comedians doing things that anyone on the planet can understand.
What about the content value of it? Because also we've seen a lot of our comedians go the way of ethnicizing the comedy part of it, whereby you talk about either a certain community doing this and that, and someone from US would not understand what the people in Luo Nyanza do. They don't care. The people in Western Nyanza do. Even the accent thing, they don't relate to it.
And perhaps as a comedian, you want to hit the levels of Trevor Noah, international level. So how do you do that when in terms of your content, when it's only specified for a specific region? Doug, let me begin with you.
Well, the challenge is that thing of coming out. The way I see it, even for the comedy industry, it started as it spawned off of a show, as opposed to an industry spawning off a show. So what happened is people do stuff that is tailored for that particular show only. And when it started out as a concept, but honestly, it's also the comedians also getting that practice to be able to do stuff that is outside the norm of, because if you come to my show and I have a specific formula to my show, I want you to do the stuff the way I do it here, right? And particularly, personally, I've been able to perform outside all over the world. I had a career outside, and the thing that I noticed is I was able to now just be able to connect with humans on a human level, in a universal sense, more than as opposed to just seeing myself and doing my jokes in an identity, local ethnic identity way. I mean, there's still the universal identities of race and whatnot, and what people can use, how people can use them for comedy. But in our context, we needed that thing, that an industry, like an infrastructure of sorts, where there's people that are incubating, people that are just beginning to get off, and people blowing off, and also other arms like management. That is, we are still lacking those things. Management, PR, stuff like that. That is what makes the other industries across the world tick, right?
Yeah. All right. So, Nico, let me pick it up from what Emmanuel had said. He talked about how long will it take for us to get to where South Africa is. You have Trevor Noah hosting Daily Show, the first person of color ever hosting Daily Show after Jon Stewart. You have the likes of Zozi, who won the beauty contest, Shomadozi, who blew up internationally last year. How long will will Kenya wait for us to get to that level?
Well, I don't know how long it will take, and I think Kenya has gotten to certain levels that sometimes we forget or we don't acknowledge. Like somebody like Modoni, the drama queen, had a really great 2019. She had like a global tour. She won an international award for her album. Remember when Sauti Sol was dancing with Obama? No other African group or band or musician ever did that. So I think we have reached certain levels that we should celebrate. But then for the rest of the artists or whichever business you're in, as long as it's in the industry or entertainment, be it comedy, be it music, I think everybody who's trying to run their business or their brand has to know where they want to go. So if you want to get to a level where you're big in America or something, then you have to consider the cultural differences. If you want to be big in East Africa, you have to consider the cultural differences in the region. You have to make your content market specific, region specific, fan specific. So you can't be wanting to reach out to Americans, but you're saying jokes in Swahili because they will not be understanding. So I think we can't know how long it will take, because today I'm sitting with him, the next day is gonna be somewhere else. I can't believe I was sitting with him. Like, it's just a click of a button these days. It's just the content you post like on your phone. You don't even have to get like a super director. So that's the beauty of now. Like, we have seen the shift from having to depend on traditional media to artists becoming independent and having the power to connect with their audiences just by the click of a button. So I think that's an amazing space we are at right now, and anything could happen anytime.
Emmanuel, can I chime in on that? Another thing that we have to understand is, just to answer your question of how long it's going to take us to get there, we have to understand that we have to work it. Like it's not gonna be like magic.
Handed
Yeah,
to you.
yeah.
Right.
We have to work it on very small levels, you know, on levels of where you're doing shows for 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, you know, and you have to do it consistently over a long time before now you're gonna achieve.
But do you
success.
have the unity and synergy to do that? Because also I've been told that there's some people in the entertainment industry who are pulling in different directions. So, if, for example, if we decide that whenever we have a corporate event, the price is 100,000, for example, and then somebody comes in and says, "Retain you 50."
No, listen. The corporate gigs, the corporate
So
gigs,
true, though.
the corporate gigs are a reward for the work you've done. All right. So you can't if you're unknown, then you say later 100,000. Who's gonna give you 100,000? You know, you have to have done the work in the hidden places where no one is seeing you. A very good example, 2019, a big star, Eliud Kipchoge. You don't see him in the morning. There's no video of him jogging early in the morning at 5 a.m. But there's a huge video of him with thousands, millions of views of him winning the challenge that he did. So for us, and just speaking for ourselves as comedians, we have to start with the small venues. You know, we look at, you know, the huge Churchill Truancy, the huge, you know, crowds there.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone can start on that level. So be ready to start on a level where you're performing for 4 people, 5 people, 7 people, and eventually it's going to explode, right? So you have to give it the time.
Let me add on something. And while you're doing that, you have to grow into like small venues, smaller regions, smaller markets, smaller like that. So if you conquer Nairobi, you need to conquer Kisumu, you need to conquer Tanzania, you need to conquer Uganda. You have to have the ambition to want to conquer the next market. I think it's very difficult to expect to blow, say, internationally or in the whole region while you're not that strategic.
There are those who are doing it, but are they pulling everybody else with them? Eric Omondi, for example, he has several gigs in different places. We've seen this on Instagram. But the question is, do you have the synergy and the unity to pull each other up?
The thing about pulling each other up is very, like, I find it sometimes very unfair when people are expecting Eric Omondi to pull them, yet he is putting in the work. Like, people have to also put in the work. Yeah, you have to put in the work. Even if you need him to help you, you have to put in the work and go up to him.
No, but I think the issue is not Eric.
Just asking whether you have the synergy to pull each other up,
generally
not even
pulling
just an
someone
individual.
up. I think what Trevor is also sort of saying is the opportunities. Here I am, I'm this comedian who has made it in Kenya, in this foreign market. I will work with this upcoming comedian. So it's sort of working with people behind you in your industry. So all of you together can be a bigger force than you as an individual.
And also everyone needs a guiding force, because even for us in the media industry, there's some people still call us and tell us that was the worst interview you've ever done. Don't do such things, do this and that and that. Somehow you get the guidance from them because they've gone ahead of you. It's not that they're doing the work for you.
They have gone ahead of you. And that goes into the infrastructure thing then, whereby it's an industry. We need, like, if there is a show, like when you go to New York, for example, or Toronto, here's what happens. There's these smaller shows, there's bigger mid-level shows, and there's a big arena shows, right? And you'll find Chris Rock walking into a club with 100 people and performing.
It's true.
Tomorrow you will hear it goes crazy. Everybody hears Chris Rock was here. It just pulls crowds. That's a way for Chris Rock to help the scene come up. But also, of course, he's also helping himself. He's working his material, but he's also bringing the scene up, because there is also that process.
So is there that genuine unity in Kenya's entertainment industry, or is it a me game?
I think it's beginning to get there.
It's okay.
It's beginning to get there, and that's the reason, is because there's other people also bringing the artists together. Like the default state for an artist usually is, I have to do this, and sometimes they are blind to what other things they have to do for the good of the industry. So whenever there is some industry help, like management, organizers actually instilling some standards and actually, showing some standards, it actually shows. Because in comedy right now, I think we are beginning to have that thing whereby comedians are working together, they are writing together, they do gigs together, and they curate the shows, in a uniform manner.
Right.
So yeah, it's getting there. People are learning after getting burnt. So
but also, sometimes it's so hard to find someone who's serious. Like, it's hard.
Tell me about it.
You have to go through 100 unserious people to find maybe half an unserious person. You're a serious person, Like, there's a time I used to walk upstairs here at Jeff Koinange's show. All right, Jeff Koinange. All right. Artists would book interviews. They'd be told, all right, come on Friday at 6 sharp, be here. Guy shows up at 8. So they show up, they're like, I'm so sorry, man, traffic. They're like, man, how come these other guys got here?
So it's the issue of work ethic.
Yes. So yes, you may be willing. And I'm sure you guys get so many inboxes. Hey, Trevor, what can I do to be on the media? And then you tell the guy, all right,
show up
at place X at 6. And he doesn't show up. So also it's tough also finding someone who's motivated enough to actually do the work.
All right, we have to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'd like to hear from you as well, as the person who's at the entertainment industry or being entertained. What would you like to see in 2020? And also when we come back, we'll talk about the issue of entertainment and guidance for the younger generation.
Definitely.
Artists get this every single time. You're not being a good role model. There in the art industry, where do you draw the line between entertainment and guiding your children back at home?
Yes, and we'll also discuss how music is playing a role into our societal illness and the loopholes that they've talked about, PR and management, because at the end of the day, it creates a perspective outside then to the international market. See you in a bit.